everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be discussing why you should separate your photography and retouching rates. And this is obviously going to be mainly to do with clients. In this video, we're going to be talking about why you should separate the two, why you should have a completely different rate for each of these things, because as far as I'm concerned, they're two completely different professions and they each take their own amounts of time to do. And one of the main things I really want to stress here too, which we really do all know as photographers, is that retouching is something that is done after the fact, and it is done after the day that you are working with your client. You will be spending quite a bit of time after the shoot day to retouch, and we're really going to go over a couple of these points today. So we're going to get straight into it, and I'm going to chat a little bit about what I do and how I set my own rates. And this has really worked for me over the last number of years while I've been freelancing. I think that it's really helpful to have a photography day rate. So quite often I will quote my clients with my photography and video included day rate. So this will be either for 8 hours being a full day, or it will be for 4 hours, which would be a half day rate. And my half day rate I usually set at a little bit more than half of my day rate, if that makes sense. So I do encourage a lot of my clients to pick the full day rate. It's going to give them a lot more time to photograph, and obviously with me being a beauty photographer and fashion photographer, a lot of the time there will be different models there on the day that they want to photograph, that the client wants photographed. And this is really tricky to do in a 4-hour period of time if you're trying to photograph 3 models, for example. So I always recommend that my clients go for the full day rate. But enough about that. That's kind of like its own separate thing anyway. But I want to talk about now why you should separate this and add a retouching rate on top of this, which is exactly what I do. So the next thing that I do is I actually have a per hour or a per image rate for retouching. This is really going to depend on the client, what their budget is, and how long I'm going to be spending on each image. I actually have several rates for different types of retouching. So for example, if it's very simple retouching, very minimal and natural, I'll have a rate for that. I'll have a rate for product photography retouching, and I'll also have a rate for retouching that is a lot more in-depth and involved. So anything where I've got a beauty image where I need to retouch and it's quite intensive, I will be adding more of a fee onto that style of retouching. So as I said, this rate that I will add on for retouching will either be per hour or per image. Now, sometimes it can be tricky to sell to a client why you need to charge a per hour rate. A per hour rate can kind of be a little bit scary to clients because quite often, especially if you're working with startups or smaller businesses, they will want a full quoted amount. They don't really want to go past that. They want to know how much they're going to be charged upfront. And that's the problem with a per hour rate, is you're not really going to be able to give them a definite until you've started retouching and started to finish the images. So yes, some of my clients, I do charge this because they're completely fine and they understand why I need to do this, and there may be a lot more that goes into some of those images in terms of retouching, and their budgets might be a little bit larger as well. This is usually for my regular clients who I have worked with on a regular basis or a more regular basis than other clients. But my per image rate is more directed to smaller businesses, startups that really do want to have that security and that knowledge of what they're going to be up for a quote. And I completely understand either way. But obviously where I can push for a per hour rate, I will, because I know then that I'm really being appropriately paid for what I'm doing. And I think that per image is okay too. I do find that obviously with my experience now, I do tend to know how much time it's going to take me to edit a certain image. The only thing is you don't always know how picky your client might be in terms of the retouching, and obviously it's important to have a certain amount of revisions maximum, so they don't keep coming back to you with about 20 revisions and you're spending forever on one image. So that's a really important thing to factor in as well. But that's essentially what I do. I like to have different rates and separate that photography and retouching rate. And the reasons for this are you don't always know how long the retouching is going to take necessarily, so it's really good to make sure that you've got a separate rate for that anyway, and not just lumping it all in with the photography day rate. I also find as a commercial photographer, not every client will know how many images they want initially. So this kind of becomes a bit of an upselling option. If they really are happy with the images that you've taken for their brand, quite often they will ask you for more images or more retouching to be done on them. Quite often they will come back to you with quite a number of images that they want retouched. So it's another way for you to obviously make money, but be paid correctly for your time as well after the shoot has ended. I don't always like packaging in a certain amount of shots because not always does the client know how many that they need or want on or before the day of the shoot. So I think this is really important to keep in mind if you are quoting commercial clients. Really kind of let them choose how many images images they want. Give them that little bit more flexibility. I often find that they do appreciate that in a sense, being able to kind of fit things also within their budget. That's another really important option for separating those rates, is that they can look at how much the retouching is, and maybe they don't want 50 images, or maybe they don't want 10 images even included in that day rate. So if you've already got a package, it can be quite limiting in that way. You're giving them that flexibility to choose how many images they want. And yes, I've had some clients even choose like up to 50 images to edit, but at the end of the day, that is giving me more of an income from the shoot than I otherwise would have gotten. I do allow my clients to choose images from proof sheets, and quite often they look at the proof sheet and they often want more images edited, which is a good thing. But as I said, you're allowing them a little bit more flexibility, and also if they are sticking to a budget, then instead of maybe wanting 20 images, they might just opt for 10 or less. And at least you know that you've been paid correctly for the photography day rate, but you're also getting paid for your time after the shoot as well. At the end of the day, I think it's really important to make sure that you are paid correctly, because obviously as photographers, that is what we all want. As freelancers, that's what we all want, is to be paid for our time in the correct way. And this is really one step towards doing that. I believe it's something that's really worked for me. I used to package everything in together for clients, and quite often wouldn't even qualify them in asking those questions of how many images they need or they might think they need. And it made things a lot harder for me in the end. But I think definitely separating those rates has not only made it better for me time-wise and money-wise, but it's also made some of my clients a little bit happier as well, in knowing that they can sort of pick as many images as they want, in knowing that they're going to have to pay for the time though if they do so. Okay guys, well let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this topic and whether this is something that you do as well. Let me know if you've got any tips for making sure that you get paid appropriately for your time and your efforts. I always love hearing other people's points of view on this kind of situation and this topic, because as creatives we do tend to do things differently to one another, and everyone's situation is different, but I really love hearing your tips as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you are interested in any of my retouching courses, make sure you check out the links in the description box below. Thanks again guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!